almost says think ass because you disappear the L.
Think ass.
Think ass.
Think ass. ass.
Maybe that's what the shirt should have been.
That's a great song.
Paul McCartney.
Hammer time.
Imagine telling people like, I'm gonna make a song. It's just gonna go ass. People around you are like, don't do that.
No, but then having to explain, I'm gonna make that song and
like,
it's gonna be a huge hit.
Yeah,
people are actually gonna like it.
Do you remember booty rocking everywhere? Who's that? Like, I found you, Miss New Booty. Get it together and bring it back to me. Yeah. I love that shit.
Fucking
music is wild, man.
Those motherfuckers can do whatever they want.
Really, they really can.
Man, how do they do it?
Who knows, man?
I'll never be that cool.
Freaking in the first song on Kanye West's new album Donda, it's called Donda Chant, and the woman is literally saying Donda, Donda,
just
Donda,
over and
over again.
But it's probably dope.
I skip it.
I was gonna say you had told, because I was like, you asked me, did you listen to the album? I'm like, no, like I need old school Kanye, and you're like, there is, and so I checked it out, and you lied to me.
There is.
There's not.
Do people still buy music?
No. That's
How-
why it's
so
all
how-
garbage.
So how
Unless you
are
buy like records.
how are so many of these people so rich?
Streaming makes hella money. Like, especially like
But like with the album you're talking about, did you purchase it?
no, listen to it on Spotify.
Spotify, yeah.
So Spotify must pay some sort of premium to have Kanye West, right?
I think they get.
Anybody know how any of this works?
They get. I believe that for every time it's played, they get like a percentage of a penny every time it's played. It was
Drake's getting billions of listens. Kanye's getting
but yeah, they're not making a ton off of that. They're maybe making enough to rent the places that they're taking pictures in front of, and the cars, same thing. But
Nah,
these guys got crazy money. And then there's people that you never even heard about before, where they show like on MTV Cribs or whatever, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
That's how old we are. I don't think MTV is even around.
It doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. No, it's still around.
I don't think SoundCloud rappers make a lot of money.
No, but SoundCloud, that stuff's cool because it gives these rappers the ability to
get out there
with
for
the
sure.
label.
Yeah,
that's what Chance the Rapper did. And right, and like all these, a bunch of these SoundCloud rappers are like, just like they can just put their stuff out on Spotify and just start killing it.
Seems like a rough business to try to be in the music industry at all.
It does. You know what I was thinking about the other day? And this was probably old news to people. Some people are probably like, duh, dude. But I'm assuming rap beef is fake. I think it's like wrestling because people are talking about like people talking about like right now with Kanye and Drake, because apparently like they're beefing and they don't want to do something together. Well, that gets Kanye in the news and he has a new album out. That gets Drake in the news and he has a new album out. And at some point they're going to collab and just make hundreds of millions of dollars on something. But they planned this shit. They're like, dude, let's do a beef. Like,
of course.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, they're both like FaceTiming each other, laughing their asses off.
Laughing to the bank.
Yeah. I think the
Biggie and Tupac was real though.
Yeah, yeah, because they're not alive.
That was real.
The Jay-Z and Nas stuff was real.
Yeah, but now, like nowadays, like I think beef is part of rap. Well, not even. I think it has to be part of rap marketing. Like producers are like, okay, what kind of beef you think? Oh, do that beef with Pusha T or Drake. I think it was Drake and Pusha T. It's like Drake, do that beef with Pusha T, and then release this.
Yeah, I don't know about that one because I can't imagine Drake had anything to gain from that. It would have been all Pusha T, and Pusha T's being such a fucking actual lyricist. I can't imagine Drake would actually accept.
Bruh, these people are still making millions of dollars with it. Like, I mean, this is the thing. When there is all this money involved, how much of it can be real? Like, I feel like a lot of this is like wrestling.
Yeah, I wonder, shouldn't they just not care?
Right? What do you mean?
Like, hey, Kanye, did you hear what so-and-so said about you?
Oh, got it.
Yeah, whatever. Sounds good. Like, instead of making a whole rap song about it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe that's part of what makes them great. Having like a vindictive side or wanting to get revenge, and maybe that kind of shines through in their music.
We probably just shouldn't think too much about it. We should just go with the flow.
Yeah. We don't know what's going on. That's
the
truth.
Less? Maybe.
We should. You know what I'm thinking about right now is some food.
I'm still fasted, but I'm hungry too. We were just talking about Cinnabuns earlier. and I can't wait to eat tonight.
I'm really hungry.
Yeah, you mentioned Monster Mash, and for some reason, like on the last episode, I think you mentioned it, or maybe it was even yesterday, maybe, but I'm still thinking about it whenever you said it. And I'm just like, man, I'm going to grab some Piedmontese and some rice and some bone broth and mix that shit up when I get home.
Because it mixes well.
It's amazing.
It mixes, plus the meat, like, okay, so Piedmontese, all their meat is good, but even their ground beef, because usually ground beef is boring, their ground beef tastes good.
Their ground beef is awesome. Their hamburger patties and stuff are just completely off the charts. The sliders, the what are the fattier ones? What are those called?
The Hop Dotty patties.
Hop Dotty patties. Those are ridiculous. And even the 96 4, whatever it is, that shit is fucking amazing too. And normally that kind of meat is not good. Normally it's super dry.
Yeah, no, the 96.4 beef is my favorite. I love that stuff. It tastes amazing. So I don't mind the fattier stuff too, but I don't know. I like cooking all the grease out of everything. I know you get upset, but so with the 96.4, there's a lot less of that, and it tastes so good. But yeah, if you guys haven't, you need to.
You don't like the grease?
I don't.
Dude, when I first started doing keto, I would spoon it up and eat it.
Yeah, just get it on everything.
Fucking love it.
Did you have a mustache back then?
No.
Okay, so
yeah, things might be messier now.
This is a weird thing. I can't have greasy food because then I smell it on my mustache the rest of the day, and it grosses me out.
Might get too creamy.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, Piedmontese.
That is something about a mustache. You keep the scent for
little remnants.
You keep going.
Yeah, just a little something.
They call it a flavor saver.
Flavor saver, yes.
You just take a deep breath and like, oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah, you guys are talking about Piedmontese beef being stuck there, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, if you guys want to get Piedmontese remnants stuck in your mustache, head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. And to get more stuff in your mustache, you can save 25% by using promo code Power Project for 25% off your order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Links to Piedmontese in the YouTube description, as well as the podcast show notes. Oh, mustaches.
So I'll take a shower, but sometimes I just won't wash the mustache.
Just leave it.
Just leave it. Just so I can go through my day. Just like, oh yes.
That's the only time you really pay attention to wearing a face mask is to cover up like a hair, like a head cap thing. You put it over your face. You gotta preserve it.
All right, let's start this over. This is way too childish. People aren't going to want to listen to this.
Okay, guys, let's get serious.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
What's that smell? It's your upper lip.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, yeah, okay. It is. All right, cool.
Now that we've established that.
All right, today we're talking about thinking less, and we got our Think Less shirts on. They're available on markbellslingshot.com. You can purchase one right now. We've been talking quite a bit lately about thinking less, and we don't think that you shouldn't think at all. And I also am a huge promoter of the fact that you have control and opportunity to think about your thoughts. You have control and opportunity to think about circumstances that you might be in each and every day, even though you might feel like they're compromising positions sometimes. You have control over how you look at those things, and you can maybe reinterpret or reframe those things as being positive or just something that will be more desirable towards some of your goals. But when we think about think less, something that I've been adopting lately and something I heard Jocko Willink talk about was to have like unflinching discipline. And I thought to myself, like, that really locked up really well for me with the words think less, because I was listening to something from somebody, and they were talking about thinking and what happens once you start to think. Normally, once you start to think, a conflict arises, a counterpart. Should I eat that sandwich without mayonnaise or with mayonnaise? Should I eat that sandwich with cheese or without cheese? Should I stay on my diet? Should I eat some ice cream? I'm more comfortable staying in bed. Why would I wake up early and go on, right? As soon as you start thinking about it, all these little things trickle in and you start to make excuses for yourself. Next thing you know, you're distracted and 15 minutes went by or 20 minutes. Now you have another excuse. You're like, oh, I actually got to go to work. I actually have. So kind of having unflinching discipline and working on thinking less and just doing has been massively beneficial to me. When I was younger, I think I kind of did it on autopilot just because I was super naive. So I just went and I did stuff. I didn't think about my feelings. I didn't think about anything. Probably because I'm male and probably because I maybe had like an underdeveloped maturity of certain aspects of my brain. But whatever those attributes were, they were actually really good for me because I would always just go and do shit.
And that's the thing, though. It's great. I'm happy you mentioned like when you were a kid, because when you were a kid, exactly, you didn't know much things, right? And you would just do things and learn things. And you learn things like you'd start doing something, you would be naive to how little you knew about it. Even in the beginning stages, you weren't like, you sucked at basketball, but it wouldn't stop you from going and practicing because you're like, I can get better at this. You see people that are really good. You're like,
you actually think that you're good.
You think that true.
When you're a little kid and someone's like, hey, can you kick that soccer ball further than the other kid? And without ever seeing them do it, you're like, yep. And you're like, I mean, I do this with my nephews and stuff because I'm fascinated by somebody just having a brain of being 7 or 8 years old. And, you know, like one day we're outside throwing a football and he's trying to throw a football like through a tire. And he missed it the first couple times. And then he goes, oh, I'm not that good at this. And I was like, well, it's because you haven't really maybe practiced it that much. You haven't tried it that much. I said, I bet you've tried a couple more times, you'll get it. Maybe you'll have to be closer. And he's like, no, I can do it from really far away, you know. So he had that mindset, but he learned quickly, yeah, like it would be helpful if he was a little closer. And then he was able to make it, and then he was able to see that, you know, over time with a little bit of practice. But initially, before he ever threw the ball, he thought he was going to be the next fucking Joe Montana or something like that, or Tom Brady. But once he started to throw it, then he kind of realized. And so I think if you can be that naive to something to where you don't have any expectations of the results, you don't have any idea about what's going to happen, and you just go and do it, it can be a magnificent place to be in.
Absolutely. And as an adult, the thing is like you think too much, especially when you're trying to do something new, when you're trying to, like, let's say you want to start working out or you want to pick up a new thing. You think about it so much that most people will think of, they'll soon think of reasons why it's not going to work for them. Like people who want to maybe start jujitsu. I need to lose some weight before I start. I'm not flexible enough. They have some morning classes, but you know, I feel like I need to be able to roll with more people, and there are only 3 people in that class, so I won't really go until my work schedule makes it fit. You can think up all the reasons why you shouldn't, even though you know you want to. Whereas when you're a kid, you're just like, I'll just go. I'll figure it out. You go and you just do the damn thing, and that's the big essence of all of this. It's like, a lot of you guys who listen to this show, you are teenagers and adults. We're thinking about a lot of things, and there are a lot of things that you want to do. But many times we think ourselves out of just getting it done. And that the whole premise of this is just go do it, go experience it. We have guests on this show that they talk about things, and we go right into the gym and we do it. We don't think about we don't think about things. We just go and we do it, and we see what's beneficial, we see what's not, and we keep pushing forward.
Yeah, and it's usually like the concerns that you do have for not wanting to do something almost always are like when you think about like, oh, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's like, dude, it's so far from that actually does happen. It's almost always a net positive, like no matter what. Even if whatever you do jiu-jitsu, you go to BJJ and you like, oh, I'm gonna suck at it. Like, yeah, well, you're gonna, but I mean, you know, like, is that really the worst thing ever? Like, no, you're fine. Like, eventually you'll get good, and then now you have a bunch of new friends, and you know how to defend yourself.
Be okay with sucking.
Yeah.
It's like real talk, though. Like, be okay with not being good at something when you head into the gym. You know, when you start jujitsu, whatever it is. Be okay with the movement not feeling great. Be okay with having to start with the absolute basics on something, because you can progress at it if you just go and you start doing something about it.
I think that we have a tendency to think of a lot of stuff that's like not there or not available for the moment.
Yeah.
And you think that things are going to be better when this happens or when that happens. Those are places where you're a little lost in thought at the moment. And you'll notice sometimes if you're paying attention that your breathing, your heart rate, like these things can be kind kind of going at an erratic pace when you start to think about the stuff that you don't have or the stuff that you need that's currently like not there. And I think the best thing to do is to calm yourself down, is to think about what you have now and what opportunities lie ahead of you. You know, people say kind of like live in the moment. And I know it might be a cliche thing to say, but literally that can help bring down some anxiety for you, because you can say, okay, well, what's manageable right now? What's something I can do? Remember the dentist that we had on recently, he was talking about what's like one thing, no matter how small it is, that you could do towards your goal. Like he didn't care. He's like, it doesn't matter how much of a feeble attempt that you think it is, that you, I don't know, you tried salmon for the first time just because you heard it was a healthy protein choice, and you thought fish was disgusting, but at least you tried it, or you try to insert one healthy meal per day, rather than trying to be on some specific hardcore diet that you don't think at the moment that you can manage.
You know, the funny thing is, like, okay, guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. Some people are probably like, ew, Nsima, you're nasty. But you know the water floss thing? That was the main thing I was using before we had our dentist on. Like, I'd floss every now and then, but I didn't floss often. And after we had him on, by the way, if you guys are listening to this, I don't know if that episode's out yet, but we had a dentist on, and we talked a lot about a lot of stuff as far as your mouth health is concerned, and just, I'm flossing now.
Got right on it. So did I.
Yeah, I got right back on it. I'm not missing a day, because I want my teeth when I'm older.
I was like, I could use more of this in my life. So I did the same thing.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't know if anybody, I like a lot of these self-development books or whatever, and I learn a lot from them. But there's this book called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins, and I've talked to you about this one before. I read this one like 4 years ago, I think, four or 5 years ago. And the whole premise of the 5-second rule, and there have been thousands of people that have messaged her how their life have been changed. But the whole premise is that when you have a thought about something, for example, when you get out of bed in the morning, you need to get yourself moving in the direction of what you need to do in 5 seconds. Build that habit. Like when you wake up, open your eyes, count from 5, 4, and within that 5 seconds, go and do, because the whole idea is that after that, you're going to start thinking of reasons why you probably shouldn't. Think about this. You're trying to do the 20,000 step a day challenge, and you know you need to just walk out the door and just go take a few steps outside and walk. Put on your shoes and go walk, or have your shoes outside your bedroom door, put them on, go to your door and start walking. Get the momentum going, because you know that once you get that momentum going, once you start doing it and you stop thinking about how difficult it's going to be to start walking and all that, you'll just get it. You'll go, and you'll feel good afterwards.
What do you think will happen if you wait around to be hit with some sudden spell of motivation? Probably ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this many times. I mean, there's a lot of, for people that are more science-based, there's a lot of evidence showing that once you start moving, that dopamine is produced in your brain. So once you get moving, you'll actually notice sometimes it takes a little bit more than just movement. Sometimes it takes actual, like, a little physical exertion, a little bit of pushing, which sucks, because you're like, I just don't want to push right now. But I'll tell you, the second that you do, and the second that you get past that little, it could even be like as little as like 30 seconds of exertion, and you could be like, oh, there it is. Now I'm in, and now you're in a completely different world. Moments ago, you didn't even feel like walking, and now next thing you know, you're running. You're like, well, how the fuck did that happen? It's because movement promotes movement. Just as I've said many times, success breeds success. Once you start to initiate a lot of habits that are successful, you will eventually become successful. And once you are successful, the remnants left behind is someone of a successful person. Someone can kind of point to all the dots, and they'll be similar in this person that's successful at being a financial planner, just as it'll be similar to this other person who is a UFC champion. They'll be identical. The successes that they've had, the disciplines they had, there'll be some things that'll be a little different amongst them, obviously. But for the most part, there'll be 4, 5, 6 things where you're like, oh my God, that guy does that. That guy, oh, that guy wakes up early. Oh, so does that guy. Oh, that guy, you know, make sure he does this before he goes to bed so he gets a good night's sleep. Oh, that guy, you know, and you're going to have all these habits pile up and you're like, ah, that's how it happens.
And one of those big habits, like that, one of the habits that I need to build for myself is the habit of not thinking myself out of certain situations, because I through the years, I have found that has been somewhat of a weakness of mine. Like I would have an idea on something, but then I'd just sit too long on it. And I would just like, something else would come up and I would just think myself out of doing it at that moment in time. So this is something that I had to remind myself to do. And it's just like anything else, just like having good nutrition, just like getting in your exercise, just like getting good sleep each night and having a ritual before that. This is kind of a habit, you know, like there are certain things you need to do, make a list of the things you need to do. And the first thing that you can literally get done, go do it. Like just go do it. And that's why, like, legit, like on my phone screen, this has been on my phone screen ever since we had Andre in the gym. Because when he came to the gym, like I was like, God damn, that's me, man. Like I need to do more of that. I need to get better at that, because I see people like yourself and people who are just highly productive individuals. They're just next, on to the next, on to the next. They're just tacking things down.
Yeah. And I personally need to think less a bit too, because I don't have, at the moment, I don't have great access to being like spontaneous. You know, you guys notice, like, you were around me a lot. Like, I don't react much to anything, but that's, you know, where it's nice is that I stay pretty even, but where it sucks is that I stay pretty even.
Yeah.
You know, so like, but where I need to think less, and something that I can improve upon greatly would be, to not have any concern about how I look or how I feel in a certain moment, and just roll with it and don't worry about what other people think of it. As much as I want to say, oh, I don't give a fuck about what I totally care about what people say. I totally care about what people think. It's just, you know, maybe there's other people that can do a better job of blocking some of that out. But like, I don't want to be made a fool of, or I don't want to feel foolish. But like, as I'm getting older, I'm getting more and more comfortable in my own skin, and I'm getting more comfortable kind of saying like almost whatever I feel or whatever I think, and then trying to surround whatever it is that I said with words that make sense to me at that moment, or that can make sense to other people on why I you know, feel or think a certain way. So we all have areas to work on, but I think ultimately you can view a lot of these things as weaknesses. We don't have much of a problem pointing out our strengths, you know, but I think it's a good idea to kind of hone in on those strengths and to like lean into those more and say, I'm actually pretty good at this. Okay, this feels good. I bet I could even be better at this, because I'm only just getting started with this. Like, people have recognized me as being someone that's creative. And then once you kind of hear that about yourself, you kind of perk up and you're like, okay, I think I am creative. Let me lean into that. Let me see what that means. I think I can create more products. I think I can, after a while, you start to think, maybe kind of like within reason, I can kind of create anything. But where there's a lot of weakness, a lot of times, what I hear from a lot of people is they'll say, man, I'm not creative. And to me, like, that's a weakness. Like, you should not talk about yourself that way. You should just say, hey, at the moment, I'm not very creative at the moment, but I can work towards being creative, because being creative is just as simple as thinking of the complete opposite of something. So if you were like, oh, okay, I'm going to sell water bottles, you could say, oh, I wonder what it would look like if I sold an empty bottle. And you would think, who the fuck would ever buy an empty bottle? But when I was a kid, empty bottles didn't exist. These water bottles that everyone is walking around with all the time, these metal things or whatever the fuck they are, you know, that they sell for like $60, those were not created. And people at that time didn't even really drink that much water, but now it's a thing. Everyone's got like their water thing that they're walking around with. I know Rich Piana used to sell those 5%er jugs, right? And tons of people had those, and it was something that people filled up with. So you might think this is the dumbest. If you actually intentionally, like, I know we're talking about think less, but if you're trying to be creative, there does have to be some thought in there, but you can literally try to think of the dumbest thing that you can possibly conjure up, and it will actually probably most likely end up being a halfway decent idea if you think it through more. I'll give you just a quick example. if I said, Nsima, you know what? I was thinking the other day, man, I was lifting and I was thinking about lifting. And when you flex, it kind of almost feels like a shock or a burn. So I want to hook up these electrodes to us when we're lifting, and they'll fucking zap us while we're training. Well, people utilize things like this before. They've hooked electrodes up to possibly help with hypertrophy or things like that. So just thinking differently, or thinking in a completely opposite direction of what it is that you were, or what it was that anybody else was considering, could lead to a multi-million-dollar invention of some sort.
Dude, I'm so excited to announce today's sponsor. So when I was a kid, growing up, cereal was an actual food group for me. Now that I'm a mature adult, cereal is actually a food group for me. Unfortunately, the stuff that you buy in the store doesn't really fit very well with my macros. And now we actually do have an answer for something that is healthy for us, and it does fit my macros.
That's the great thing about Magic Spoon, guys. Number one, Magic Spoon doesn't taste like cardboard or crap.
No,
Seriously.
It's so good.
It tastes like actual cereal, like the cereal you ate as a kid, but it doesn't come with all the excess carbohydrates, all the excess sugar. It doesn't make you feel bad. It doesn't mess with your gut. It's so dang good. And the great thing, guys, is the macros. Now, Magic Spoon has 0 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, 14 grams of protein, and it is 140 total calories per serving. Literally, they have great flavors. They have cocoa, peanut butter, frosted. There's a lot of different flavors on their website, and you guys really want to check them out. Matt, Andrew, I almost called you Magic. I was like, Magic.
I'll take it.
But, yeah.
All right. Well, Magic Zaragoza. So, yeah, head over to magicspoon.com/power project. I recommend that you guys get a variety pack, so that way you can figure out which flavor is your favorite. It's kind of hard to pick one, but that frosted is just incredible. but yeah, magicspoon.com/power project, and you're going to receive $5 off that variety pack. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Head over there right now so you can enjoy cereal again.
And the really dope thing, I think, it works its way in, is that we have so many different guests that come on the show, like Dr. Madahi, the dentist that you guys are going to get this episode from later, like Ben Patrick, Mike Israel, all these individuals that come on, and we learn different things from them. As we go and we do more things, these things are new for a little bit, but over time they get easier to apply, easier to do, and they take less effort and less thought to now do. It's like as you're listening to all the people we have on, and you're doing things, initially it takes a little bit to do them, but as you get better, you will think less about it. It will become something that's habitual. Same thing with lifting. Like initially when you're learning how to deadlift, you're thinking about all the technique that it takes. You're thinking about all the different cues. You do it long enough, you can just walk up to a bar and execute without doing any type of thought. Jiu-jitsu is the same thing. Initially, for a while, it's rough, but then you get to a point where you can just execute these movements without thinking. But it's that continuous aspect of continuing to learn more will allow you to think less about it.
When we were walking, what were you also doing when we were walking?
I was talking to my mom. Yeah,
you're talking to your mom on the phone. Yeah. You're not thinking at all about your feet. They just happen to be perpetually fucking going left, right, left, right, left, right. There's no thought, and you see the difference in the curb as you're talking on the phone. Your eyes see it. Your mind is auto-correcting. It's like it's almost like you're on some sort of autopilot of some kind. Obviously, like you're experiencing it and you're in control. If you wanted to run or jump or whatever, you could go on the other side of the street or whatever. But there's not a lot of thought into a lot of these things. But you do have to figure out a way to get yourself kind of moving in the first place. I think that's probably the hardest part for a lot of people.
It is. And that's where just immediately taking action on whatever it is that you want to do, that's where that comes in. Like you need to you can't let I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, because there's someone that I knew that like had a lot of things that they actually had the ability to do, but the main reason why they never got started on it, or they always got started and did things in a very halfway manner and then quit immediately, was because they always feared that they would fail at it in the end. And the problem with that is, no matter what it is that you do, you're going to fail at it for a little bit. Like, and not even fail. I don't want to use the word fail, because that like it gives people such a negative connotation. You're going to stumble a lot. Like you start a new diet, you're going to stumble a lot. You're going to have a few binges. You're going to have a few mistakes. often, but you course correct, you learn what you shouldn't do, you learn the right things to do to make sure it's easier, and then over time you make it, you get to whatever goal you were trying to get to. But if you don't start, you're not even giving yourself the chance to do that. So you need to not think about something that hasn't even fucking happened yet. That's anxiety, just worrying and thinking about something that a failure that you haven't even had. That stops you from taking action in the very beginning aspects of things.
It'd be so cool to ask James Smith about some of this. We'll have him on an upcoming
that's gonna be good.
podcast. But see how much you two have been following along and paying attention. Where does knowledge come from? How's it created?
I know the answer. Wait,
Go.
Knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit.
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. Where do you guys think knowledge is created?
It's created. Knowledge is created. My initial guess is action of some kind.
I mean, I'll just take a stab at it, but failure?
There you go. That's it.
But
There we go.
I don't remember if you ever said that before, but
yeah. I say it often.
Sorry.
Shows you how much you fucking you guys listen.
It's my first time listening to the show.
And both-
long time caller.
My bad.
Both you guys are in lots of trouble right
Hey,
now.
but I got the answer
We'll
right.
be
I'm still in
talking
trouble?
after the show. Yep.
I was like, y'all should have known this. This is part of the
You should have
curriculum.
answered it better. Faster.
Are my parents going to have to sign a
Action
permission slip?
leads to failure, which
No,
leads
you guys-
to knowledge.
You guys both nailed it. you guys both nailed it. That's how knowledge is created. So again, if you put a lot of, it makes sense to think about certain things, like if there's going to be like danger, you don't want to just, randomly decide to do something on a whim that could potentially hurt you or injure you for, I think that's why we think in the first place, is to kind of weigh out the pros and cons, and we sit there and we go, okay. But where thought can be devastating is it can slow you down and prevent you from doing something that could otherwise be pushing you towards the right direction. Like if you go in a direction, like I've talked about this before, like on your phone, you're trying to look like you're trying to walk to a pizza place or something, and you look at your phone and you're trying to figure out which way to go. Well, the fastest way to learn the right way to go is to get started. And then you get started and you go, oh shit, that thing's tracking me and I'm actually walking away from it. Oh, let me go this way, and now I'm walking towards it. It's like that simple sometimes to be able to like to be able to course correct and to get back on track. But when you overthink, you have a tendency to let a lot of self-doubt creep in. And the idea that you had that was great, I know a lot of people do this. They have an idea at night and they think about it and like, fuck, that's a really cool idea. They might even write it down. Sometimes we forget to write it down. You wake up the next day, you're like, what the fuck was that idea? You write it down. You wake up in the morning and you look at it and you go, that's not that good of an idea, I don't think. You text one of your friends something about it and they kind of shoot it down because it sounds dumb to them because you didn't really explain it to them yet or whatever. And then you're like, yep, it's a dumb idea. You don't want to let self-doubt creep in. For me, like there's stuff that I need to work on. I just wrote down a couple things like the not smart thing. Like I still dwell on that. Who the fuck knows why? Like I don't have any evidence that I'm not smart or that I'm not capable of learning other things. It's a complete false thing that I made up in my own head just based off of having some difficult times in school 9,000 years ago. Organized. I say that about myself sometimes. I'm not an organized person. Well, does that mean that you have to be a fucking mess? Does that mean your closet has to be a mess? Does that mean that you don't possess the ability to be organized at all? Like, am I not organized in all aspects of my life? No, that's actually totally not true. There's some areas where I choose to not be organized because I'm thinking or dwelling on stuff rather than just doing stuff. You notice that if you get into the habit of my wife, she's glad she doesn't listen to this, but if you get into the habit of cleaning dishes the moment that you just finished eating, it's just like a habitual thing. You don't even really think about it, right? As opposed to you get done, you just kind of leave the dishes out. Now the pan is dirty, the plates are dirty. You're thinking about cooking, and you're like, I'm just going to order something, like because now you have this tiny roadblock that would only take you a few minutes to fix, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of this self-doubt and a lot of these things, they tend to pile up. And the last thing I wrote down was that I'm always late. So you think that you're like a late person, or you think stop thinking. Like, don't allow those thoughts to even come in. Block those thoughts by just taking action and just getting to it. How many people say they're like, oh man, I'm more of a night owl person. I'm more of a night person. You know, or yeah, I can't wake up early, or I can't stay up late. Like any of those things, like saying any of those things in a negative context just isn't great, because now it locks you in as you're only this kind of person, and you just told yourself, you gave yourself like an insurance policy that you are now okay to act that way, or you're okay to be that way. I'm always late, so now I get to always be late. You can always count on me. Like, it's kind of nonsense, you know, and we need to maybe just think less and fucking just go towards our opportunities as much as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, the whole thing about like having an idea that you think is good, and then you spend a split second thinking about how it's not a good idea. And then, you know, it sucks, because like, I'm going to say it's like thrown at my face every day, but I genuinely do not mean this as a bad thing, Nsima, but it's how you've taken TikTok and exploded on there. Like, I had the same thoughts almost 2 years ago now, but the more I looked at the app, I was like, wow, this doesn't make sense for a company and the podcast to really be on TikTok. Like, and I tried a couple of things, and like some things hit, but they weren't like that great. And so, because I gave myself all these negative thoughts, all these negative, like I doubted myself so much that I was like, you know, I guess it's not the right fit. And then here we are almost 2 years later, and it's like, it's so obviously like very much important and should have been happening this whole time. So things like that will come and go, and I'm just like, fuck, I should have just kept doing that. Like, you know, whatever. So now that's like, I have to, I don't know, again, it's not like something I think about all the time, but it's like a very obvious thing that I could have thought less about and just went all in and said, fuck it. I don't care if anybody thinks that this app is dumb. Like, I should just go for it anyways.
I've had people tell me before, like at trade shows, they're like, oh, the slingshot, I thought of that. And I'm always like, that was your first mistake. I never thought about it. I just fucking made it.
Yeah.
Here it is. You know? So you got to just, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to like just to try to always put things in action. But your cue to move your fucking ass is when you tell yourself not to move. As soon as you tell yourself that you should stay in your warm, cuddly bed and snuggle up next to the wifey's butt cheeks, that's the moment that you need to be like, yep, time to get up.
But it's so nice. So it's kind of hard. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, the mustache.
Yeah, man. No, you know what I think, and I definitely hope we talk about this in another episode, but I think that I know that just by being surrounded by you, Andrew, you, Mark, the people here at Slingshot, that like the people here, like, we all have different things that we're strong at, and we have certain types of weaknesses, but there is a general idea of doing and momentum, and just fucking do it, you know? Right. And when you have people around you that are like that, it does help it make it easier to turn that into an action, or turn that into something that you continuously do. So in essence, I'm going to keep this part short, but I hope we do another episode on this, because I think I felt the most, I feel the most strongly about this idea this year, is that the people around you will determine your trajectory. And I've discovered that. I've known that for a long time. I've read that in so many books, but I think I have experienced it in the strongest absolute manner this year because of certain people that aren't in my life anymore. And that has made one of the biggest positive. This year has been the best year of my life. And I can say that without a doubt. Without a doubt.
That's dope.
Right? And it's like, it's because there are good people around me, and the people around me that shouldn't have been there, I've finally gotten them out. And that has led me into just such a, it's disgustingly crazy how much better my life is currently because of that. And we'll talk about this on another episode, but it's like, it is night and day. So pay attention to the people around you. If you got people around you that are continuing to say negative things, that are continuing to take negative actions, that are continuing to drop your ideas and shit on the things that you're trying to do, that don't try to encourage you out of your negative self-talk, but instead they try to tell you, oh yeah, these are why you can't do these certain things. Yo, you need to run in the other fucking direction. You need to get out of that. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna people that are, you know, maybe not right. Like, I don't really like to even say that people are negative necessarily, but just people that maybe aren't right in your life for a particular time period, or they're not right any longer for a particular time period. They're going to kind of encourage the self-doubt. You know, they're going to throw stuff your way that you might have already kind of halfway thought about. I mean, this is why sometimes people in relationships, they won't bring something up to somebody else because they're like, I thought you were going to shoot it down if I said anything. You know, if I said, you know, I mean, it could be like the littlest thing, but they're in relationships. This is definitely another podcast, but in relationships, there are no small things. Like, if it matters to somebody, it fucking matters, you know, and it needs to be, it doesn't necessarily need to be a big deal, but it is a deal, and it's something that needs to be communicated about. I think, you know, in terms of like trying to, you know, wrap some of this up, I know for myself, like, just doing has been really helpful, and going out on my walks and different things. Like, I've learned so many things just from literally going outside and just walking and having this kind of unflinching discipline as of late has been really helpful, or just having that cue in my head, because again, as soon as you get the cue to like that wants to talk you out of something, it'd be nice if you did it even before that, but it'll take you a moment to learn it. Like, the second that you have the idea for something, go do something, because once the idea sits there for a minute and you have an opportunity to think about it, thinking starts on the level as soon as there's a problem. Now you have a problem situation that arises that you made up in your head on why you can't do something. And now you're in this fucking fight with yourself. This is anxiety. This is stress. This is all stuff that you just don't need. You already had a good choice laid out in front of you. Just, I mean, I know that we do this with our food sometimes, you know, with like Piedmontese, and we've talked before about how sometimes we have a craving and we're like, oh man, it'd be great to stop at this place. And then you're like, no, drive home, drive home, drive home, drive home, drive home, eat your fucking Piedmontese, you know, and boom, then you do it. And then you feel great. Yeah. Like, once you actually live inside the decision that you knew was best for you in the first place, once you're there, you're like celebrating. You're like, this is fucking great. Like, I'm really glad that I didn't do that. You're like, fuck, that was really smart that I chose to eat better again. Next day on the scale, you see it. Next day in the mirror, you see it. And you're like, that was the fucking right decision. I knew it.
Yeah. And if you go searching for something, you'll find it, right? So if whatever the idea is, you will find a negative or something why you shouldn't do whatever that idea is. I wonder why is it so hard to find the opposite? You know, like, why would this be a good idea? Like, I mean, I guess the same answers are there, but maybe we just don't see them as much because they're not as detrimental. I'm not sure what that is, but it's weird that our like psyche won't allow us to see the positives right away. It's straight to the negative.
I don't think it's that it won't. I think it's that we don't train ourselves to do that, because there are certain things that I do that immediately I'm going to go like, this is why you probably should do this. You know, I think it's more so when things are unknown and they're kind of foreign to you and you haven't had much experience with it. When you have an initial thought about it, sometimes you're like, since it's not assured, you're not sure what the outcome will be. Let's say you've never done, or you haven't done much jujitsu and it's still taking you a little bit to build up the courage to go to practice. Well, you've only done 3 sessions. So there's a part of your mind that's like, it's your body's feeling like this, whatever. But when you've been doing it for years, fucking putting your gi on and going to practice is like brushing your teeth, right? So it's just like in essence, you kind of want to train yourself to start thinking about the reasons why you should do things. Because as you do that more, it gets easier to do that. But if you consistently do think of the negatives in situations, and it's not that like yeah, we have to weigh the pros and cons to make sure we're doing things safely, of course. But I believe that you can train yourself to just try to look at the reasons why things should be done. but you have to be intentional about it initially.
Yeah, you're trying to play the long game. You know, you're trying to go after like long term. But look, I mean, just think about it this way. This is not entirely true all the time. And this is part of what makes us human and part of what makes things like seductive and things like appealing, you know, to like lean towards, right? But most of the time, things that are more in line with like long-term gratification rather than short-term gratification are going to be the things that you want to kind of organize, I think, your life around, really. You know, the short term might be to like hook up with somebody, you know, real quick on one random night or whatever, right? In the long term, you know, it might be that you are trying to have an established relationship so that you live out the rest of your life with somebody else. Maybe that's your ideal and you think that's in your best interest. Other examples would be with your diet, you know, like you got the short-term gratification of eating some cookies, right? But the detriment of some of those things sometimes are that it takes you down a road that is, for me, it takes me on a journey that makes me continue to think about those foods, and I'll be stuck there. And if I didn't think about the fucking cookies, or I didn't allow that to get in there in the first place, and I just stuck to what my original plan was, I wouldn't be off and running with eating cookies and then ice cream and like whatever else starts to dance around in my head. I heard a pretty good quote the other day. I think I was listening to Lex Friedman's podcast, and I'm not sure who this came from exactly, but basically it goes something like this. It said, to feel different, you must see differently. To see differently, you must gain knowledge that is currently not there. You must and in order to do that, you must experience new things. So that's exactly what Nsima pointed out. Like, don't be afraid.
Screenshot that, send me. Send that to me. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll read it again. To feel differently, you must see differently. To see differently, you must gain knowledge that you don't currently have. And to gain knowledge that you don't currently have, you must experience new things.
Action! Action!
You got it. Yeah. And you know, I know sometimes people think that like Tony Robbins is like, you know, a little silly or whatever, or they don't like the cheerleading, or some people don't like that kind of enthusiasm for whatever reason. I actually think it's kind of cool. I just take it in dosages, you know. But Tony Robbins is somebody that talks a lot about action. I mean, people pay $10,000 to go see him talking about, hey, you shouldn't be here. You know, you should be out doing shit. And that's kind of the truth of it.
Yeah, that's it.
Take us on home, Andrew.
Sure thing. I was just thinking, even though we're trying to think less, but so you guys, again, I keep bringing it up, but my fucking air conditioner not being out. So we kind of got it patched up to where it can work right now, but it's almost like on a, we just put a Band-Aid on it. Air conditioner's running, and then the power goes out in the entire house. And it turns out it's not just our house, it's like the whole block. So I'm like, sick. All right, cool. I had Piedmontese steak tips ready to go. And then now, like, I was going to just put them in an air fryer. Yeah. I was like, now I guess I can put them in the smoker, but I'm like, God dang it. I'm like, fine, there's no air right now, so let's just go to In-N-Out and we'll sit down and eat there. Like, okay, no big deal. We get there, and Stephanie's phone, she's like, our power's back on. And before I could even consider, like, because the car was off, we had really good parking at In-N-Out. It's always packed, and we're right in the front. Before I could even think about it, I'm like, nope. Literally, like, door was open, like, shut the door, got back in the car, and went back home and had Piedmontese for dinner.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, like, by no means was I trying to practice thinking less. It was just like, I know for a fact if I eat In-N-Out, I will be upset with myself later, knowing that I had this other option that's already ready to go. Like, I could have already been doing it, but I was being a bitch. I didn't want to sit in a hot house and eat food. So I'm like, nope. Like, I was already like kind of upset because I had all this planned out, and then the fucking power went out. Yeah. So I don't know. It even without trying to think less, like I did it, and it was just a complete net positive. Like I felt good, went home, smashed that, watched the Wu-Tang series. Like it was a perfect night, and yeah, the air conditioner was back on.
There we fucking go.
Yeah, so it was cool. But anyway, so the Think Less shirt, our first Power Project podcast apparel, is going to be available, or it is available, I think. MarkBellSlingshot.com. By the time you guys are listening to this, you definitely will be available if you're on the live stream.
Right now.
I'm looking for it. Maybe I'm not looking for the right thing. So maybe the website still needs to be updated. But whatever the case, as soon as I can, I will link that in the description as well as the podcast show notes. And huge shout out and thank you to Piedmontese, especially for the steak tips I had last night. It's amazing. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes, and promo code Power Project will save you 25% off your entire order. Follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z, at the Andrew Z on TikTok. Jean-Claude Van Daddy, where you at?
Let's go, Zaddy. I didn't see my Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. I didn't see my Yin Yang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
I've heard some people before say to drown out the voice of self-doubt. What we're trying to encourage you to do is to not ever let it speak in the first place. Yeah. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Catch you guys later.